All right, I am Leena Singh. I'm the publishing director with Burlington English, and I welcome all of you to the webinar. This session is specially for parents of young children, and I'm guessing it's the school teachers, parents of these young kids who have joined this session and are going to gain a lot from the talk by Dr. Swati Popat Vats, who doesn't need any introduction. I welcome all of you to this session. I'm joining this session from Delhi. It would be lovely if you could put it into the chat section, the city and the country from where you are joining this session. So I'm joining from Delhi. Let's hear it from you. Which cities or which countries have you joined the session from? So Amritsar, Kolkata, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, Mumbai. Dr. Swati is from Mumbai, Assam, West Bengal, Bengaluru, Bhubaneswar, Sikkim, Moga, Guntur, Delhi, Bhatinda, Punjab. I just hope that people who are joining from Delhi have casted their vote in the morning
Ah,
and
yes.
then joined. Odisha, we have people joining us from Odisha, Assam, Johrat, Siliguri, Barnala, Yamunanagar, Haryana, Ahmedabad, Kuch Bihar, Nagaland. We have someone joining us from Nagaland, Rajasthan, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Manipur, Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu again. Wow, this is amazing. So we have mini India represented here. Dr. Swati, I welcome you to this particular session. And before I hand it over to you, I just want to announce some ground rules here. Though all of us want to have a one-to-one with Dr. Swati and we want her to listen to our questions from our mouth, but because there's a decorum that needs to be maintained, if there's any question, please put it in the Q&A section. And those questions will be addressed at the end of the webinar or during the webinar. For your other comments, please use the chat section. There's no it won't help if you're raising your hands, because even if I would want you to speak, I will not be able to help that, because there are now hundreds of people who have joined this session, and this session is strictly for 1 hour. So for your questions, please use Q&A section. Please do not paste your questions in the chat section, because we are not going to review the chat section from the questions. We'll not review the chat section for the questions. So, Dr. Swati, over to you.
Thank you so much. Namaskar, everybody. And it's always a pleasure to be on this fourth Saturday, 4 o'clock webinar with Burlington. I'm so happy that Burlington is doing this to reach out to teachers and also to parents, because parents play a vital role in the educational journey of children. So, without much ado, I would ask Leena, who's always helped me with my PowerPoint presentations, if she can help me this time too. Uh, Topic for today is screen and scream parenting. First of all, I want to congratulate all the parents who have joined us uh, for two things. Number one, for being a parent, because it is one of the most thankless jobs in the world. It is also a job in which everybody wants to get in, but then after they get in, they realize, oh my God, I wish there had been some training for this. And I always say that parents need the maximum support. You know, as teachers, we get qualifications, we get training, but parents are just given a baby and said, bring it up. And that's where we kind of need to ensure that parents need and get our full support. Number two, for I would like to congratulate parents for taking out time and attending this session. It just shows your commitment to parenting. We are with you, and for any help, any support, any queries, any questions, you are always welcome to reach out to us. So, the topic for today is screen and screen parenting. You know, both are actually quite related, because children these days are addicted to screens, and it kind of ends up with the parent screaming, the child screaming, because everything goes haywire when a child is so much involved with screens. Let's go to the next slide. Let's understand a few words that I would like to say for parenting that we must all remember as parents: guilt. Most mothers have a lot of guilt when it comes to parenting and working. It's very important that you remove that guilt from your mind, because guilt results in kind of taking some wrong parenting decisions. You end up feeling guilty, so you end up overdoing the mothering bit, and then it ends up as smothering and not mothering. So it's very, very important that give up the guilt. You will have a lot of people trying to give you advice. You know, the minute you say you are a mother, you have thousands of people who want to give you advice that, oh, you are a working mother, then you will have lakhs of people giving you advice that you should do this. Oh, you're not doing this for your child. Oh, that's very bad. You should do this. Say no to all of that. Go for the instinct of parenting. Somewhere, I think we humans have forgotten to listen to our instincts when it comes to parenting. Look at birds, look at animals. They don't listen to anybody. They have an instinct of parenting, which is there in their genes, and they bring up their children based on that instinct. When you follow your instinct, you know what is right and what is wrong for your child. So give up that guilt today. Let's go to the next one. The next one is going to be sarcasm. Now, I am a woman, and I know that sarcasm plays a huge role in our lives. I think as women, we have an extra gene. It's called sarcasm, because we tend to use it a lot in our words, in our sentences. But what we don't realize is that there are two people in the world who do not understand sarcasm. They are men and children. So when you use sarcasm with children and you say, yeah, you broke that toy, break them all, break them all. That's all you were going to do today, break them all. And the child looks at you with that expression of, oh, really? I can really break them all? Because sarcasm is not understood by children. And as I said, nor is it understood by men. So don't try this on your husband that when he comes late, you say, yeah, come late every day. Why don't you not come home only? Because he might take you seriously, because sarcasm is only understood by women. So please remember, do not use sarcasm when you are trying to be angry with your child or trying to give your child a lesson, etc. Let's see what's the next one. And the next one is going to be choices. Did you know that choices power the brain? So, which means the more choices you give children, the more they are using their thinking brain, and you are going to be able to bring up smarter children. The problem is when we take away choices from a child's life, when we try to do everything for a child. And choices can be very simple. For example, breakfast, you can give them a choice. Do you want to eat it in a red plate or a blue plate? So you're not giving them the choice of what you want to eat, but you're giving them a choice of how you want to eat it. Choices are very important. When you give a choice to a child thinks, okay, so I am the boss and I can choose. Pickler, you must read up on the work of Pickler. Pickler was a psychologist, and Pickler taught parents how to bring up children. And she said that the more choices you give children, the more you are making them part of the upbringing process. For example, you want to put your child to sleep. You can't say, do you want to sleep now or do you want to sleep later? In that choice, the child will always win. But when it's bedtime and you say, do you want to sleep with your teddy bear or your ball? So, which means sleeping is not a choice, but what you sleep with is a choice. So, this is how choices power the brain. So, include choices in your everyday parenting because that's extremely good for children's behavior and for their brain development. Let's see what the next one is. And what is the next word that you have to remember is pause. Did you know that children's brains have more neurons than you and I? Yes, because when they are born with billions of neurons. And each of these neurons connect with every other neuron, which means they have trillions of connections. Now, when you talk to them or when you ask them a question, it goes through all these neurons for them to be able to give you that reply. But what happens? We become impatient and we don't give a pause when we ask children something. So we ask them, did you break this? What have I told you? Not to break it. Have you broken it or not? I want an answer right now. Did you break it? So they need a pause in which to understand your first question. When you don't give a pause, two things happen. They either shut off and don't reply to you ever, or they just walk away. And you might find that irresponsible behavior. So pause. Now, children need at least a 30-second pause. Now, that's quite difficult for us adults. 30 seconds. Can you imagine that? Let's try 10 seconds. Let's see what it feels like. Did you break this? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. That's a 10-second pause. We need to cultivate that patience, to have that pause if you really want children to understand. And especially if you are going to speak to children, this is for teachers also to understand. If you're going to speak to children in a second language, so which means their home language may not be English and you are speaking to them in English. So your English sentence goes in their brain, gets translated into their home language for them to understand it. Then they think of an answer in the home language. Then they have to translate it into English to be able to give you that reply. Now, while all this was happening, you have already shot two, three, four questions at them. Think how frustrating that can be for young children. So pause. Let's see what's the next word. And the next word is mosquito. And you will say, what is that? Well, you must have heard the terminologies of different kinds of parenting, right? Or helicopter parenting is something that people always refer to. Well, I talk to parents about two kinds of parenting. One is called mosquito parenting, and the other is submarine parenting. What is mosquito parenting? Have you ever had a mosquito come buzzing near your ear? It's so irritating. They come and they keep on doing that, and you feel like swatting that mosquito. Don't talk to children like a mosquito. Don't drone. Don't go on and on and on and on. Their brains will switch off. Parenting has to be like a submarine. A submarine is extremely quiet and under the water and not seen and comes up only when required. That's how parenting needs to be. So always remember that. Let's go and see the next one now. What is the next one? Let's understand that dads are parents too. Yes, the child stays in the mother's womb for 9 months. Yes, the child requires the mother's breast milk, so is more closer to the mother. But dads are parents too, and both mothers and fathers should not forget that. I have seen moms when the dad takes the child out on their own, the moms give them a huge long list of do's and don'ts. It's their child too. Let them take care of it. Have that break, that much deserved break that the dad is trying to give you. So always remember, dads are parents too, and both play a very important role in the upbringing of children. Yin and yang. You need what dads bring to the table as a parent. Moms are more nurturers, dads are more of risk takers. So you need that element of risk taking also if we want our children to become resilient. Let's see what the next slide brings for us. Well, most of us know that children are addicted to screens. Most mothers say, my child doesn't eat without a screen. Most fathers say, if my child is throwing a tantrum, I put a screen in front of them and it calms down. Yes. we've made screens into a third parent. And do you know where it begins? It begins the moment a child is born. When the child is born, we are clicking photographs of that child, and the child sees a screen pushed in front of its face, and the child says hello to screens for the first time and realizes that they want me to smile at this thing. Maybe it's my third parent. And that's when we teach children that this screen is very important. You have to smile when you see the screen, you have to be happy when you see the screen. And suddenly, what we are teaching that baby who's born is that this screen is going to be the most important in your life. We don't show them our faces as much as we push a screen in front of them. That's the reality. And that's what we need to understand if we really want to take away this addiction of screens from our children's lives. Let's see the next slide. It's very, very important that this is what happens after a few years. In the beginning, it's so easy for you to give the screen. Oh, the child is yelling, let's put a screen in front of it. Oh, we are at the airport, the child is not listening to me, let me put a screen in front of the child. Oh, the child is at the doctor's, not listening to the doctor, let me put a screen in front of the child. Not eating, put a screen. Child not sleeping, put a screen. And after a few years, you realize, oh dear, I've lost my children to screens. And this visual says it all. You now want to save them, but it's too late. Let's see the next slide. It's very, very important for us to understand that the only live streaming that children need in the early years is this kind of a live streaming. You know, a lot of parents tell us, because I run schools, and they all say we want live streaming of the CCTV cameras. And I always tell them, live streaming is your connection to your child. Live streaming is your attachment to your child. Live streaming of any preschool or daycare camera on your phone is bad, because that live streaming is going to 30 other parents in the classroom. So please remember, your child's image, visual, video, habits are going to 30 different parents. And that's not good where safety and security is concerned. Let's go to the next slide. Let's understand the fourth hour. As schools, we follow 3 R's, which is reading, writing, and arithmetic. But I think it's the fourth hour which is going to be very important. Reduce the time that children spend on screens. Let's make screens just a tool in the lives of children. Let's see what else we can show you. It's very, very important for all of us to understand that screens have an impact on the brain. Let's see the next slide. So, screens impact the sleeping schedule of children. Children are sleeping late and children are sleeping less, and that's affecting behavior. You know, when you sleep less and that builds up, you tend to be cranky, frustrated, not able to focus, constantly tired. And imagine if that happens in children all the time. It's going to affect their behavior. Children are not spending enough time with others because of their addiction to screens. So their social development is going for a toss. You would notice that nowadays children are not able to have conversations, because when you are addicted to a screen, you have the power of a remote, and you don't like what somebody else is saying, you press the remote and psh, that person goes away. And they want to do that in real life interactions too. So their patience with others is declining. Language development suffers, because sadly, the kind of language that children pick up from screens is not very social friendly. It's very, very important that children learn how to speak to other human beings. And sadly, that's not what they see on screens. And yes, change with a swipe, change with a button is making them all less patient. So they want things faster, they want their way faster, and that's leading them to have less patience with others. All this is leading to a lack of a social development. And believe me, even the new PISA exams, they focus more on collaboration rather than memory retention and intelligence. Collaboration is what's going to help your child as the child grows up. Success in life, in careers, is based on collaboration. And in the childhood years, if we are not going to give them a foundation of how to collaborate with others, then we are going to bring up children who just don't know how to function as human beings. Let's see the next slide. So, resilience. Do you know we adults were able to combat the pandemic because we had resilience. We thought of different ways to combat that pandemic. But children who went through that pandemic suffered the most. And they, as they are going to be brought up, may not have a very important ingredient of everyone's personality, which is resilience. We are pacifying them with screens. So we are telling them emotions are not important, machines are. We are cajoling them with screens. So we are telling them that everything is materialistic. When a child is upset, we are telling them to seek an inanimate object to calm down. Think of this. We are taking away all the human elements from a child's life and replacing it with machines. What are we doing to our children? Let's think about it. Let's see the next slide. Resilience is also the ability to think through. So when I am telling a child that when you are upset, here is a machine, watch this machine and you will calm down. What am I telling this child? I'm telling this child that there is nobody, no human available for you when you are upset or when you have emotions. So, what will these children do as they grow up? As they grow up and they have emotional needs, they will seek out a machine or they will seek out drugs because they know there is no other human who can help me during my emotional turmoil. They will get hooked to, attached to machine voices. An example of that a few years back was the Blue Whale episode. Blue Whale, in which computers were telling young teenagers to take their lives. And thousands of teenagers world over were choking themselves and taking their lives. Why? Because a machine was telling them to do it. Because we train children that machines are there for you when you need them. When you are angry, when you are emotional, when you are hungry, the basic human emotions and needs, we are telling them don't go to a human, go to a machine. And that is a long term impact. Let's see the next slide. What can we do? Well, there are very basic things that parents can do about it. First of all, the American Academy of Pediatricians say below the age of 2, do not give screens to children. I know it's difficult, but try it. It's your child. We're not asking you to do it for somebody else. It's your child. Below the age of 2, no screens. If you are still unable to do that, please remember if you have to put a screen in a child's hand who is under the age of 6, put it on an airplane mode, because the rays which come out from a mobile phone are very harmful for the growing brain. Ensure that the content your children are watching is non-violent and pro-social. Pro-social means the content is asking the child also to speak something or sing something or do something. But be there always when your child is viewing screens. Never leave your child alone with screens. This teaches a child that screens are accessible only when there is another adult with me. It's as simple as crossing the road. Would you allow your child to cross the road on their own? Every child will stop as soon as they reach a main road, because they know I can't go through without an adult. And that's the training we need to give them when it comes to screen. You can't watch a screen without an adult, because then they know that this is something that I can do only with adult supervision. Let's go to the next slide. Absolutely no screen time 3 hours before bedtime. And friends, this is for you too. I know it's difficult these days because we do our work on screens, we are constantly checking messages and checking emails, but our sleep time has suffered because of our engagement with this blue light of screens. For children, absolutely no screen time 3 hours before bedtime. Avoid any kind of technology during mealtime. Mealtime is us time. Mealtime is sensorial time. Children are not able to feel the five senses when they are eating. I have seen parents who plonk a screen in front of them, and then when something interesting comes and the child says, oh, that's when they push a spoon in the child's mouth. What kind of eating habit is that? It's extremely harmful for children. After screen time, always ensure that the child is involved in some kind of a physical activity. I'll tell you why. And never, ever, 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 ever use a screen to pacify an emotional child. An emotional child needs an adult, needs another human to connect to, not a machine. Don't ever do this crime when it comes to your own child. Your child is emotional, your child is hungry, your child is angry, your child is upset, your child needs you, not a screen. Let's see what we have in the next slide. So, why do children cry when screens are taken away? You must have noticed that you take the screen away from the child and the child suddenly has a pause and then goes bah and throws a tantrum. And I just said in my previous slide that when you take away a screen, please do some physical activity. Well, when the child is watching screen, there is hyper focus. All the brain areas are focused on the screen, because people who develop content for screens know that. They know how to hook a young child's brain. So a child is on hyper focus mode while watching a screen. You take away the screen, the hyper focus mode is still there. And now I don't know where to use that hyper focus mode. So I will start crying because I don't know what to do with my hyper focus state. And that is why after screen time, have a physical activity. Make them jump, make them roll. It's very, very important to bring down that hyper focus so that they are now have the focus to deal with all the information that you are going to give talking to them. So it's an extremely difficult transition to take a child away from a screen and ask them to do another activity. Always remember that. Let's see the next slide. It's very, very important that you understand that taking away a screen is not just something you want to do. Taking away a screen is something in which your child is involved too. So please remember, hyper focus, super fast, super busy mode, I now have to calm that mode down. So I give you some exercises to do, or I give you a fun activity to do, and then we take a deep breath and we calm down. And then you can move to another activity. Yes, it also helps telling children, I am going to now take that screen away in the next 5 minutes. I am now going to take that screen away. But believe me, they are so hooked onto that, they will look at you and say, huh, but they will not understand what you're trying to tell them. I can give you an example. You know, when we are watching television and we are watching something very interesting, and this happens especially to men, because you know men's brains are not geared for multitasking. So when they are watching television like a cricket match or news or something, and you pass by and you give an instruction, they go and they've not understood anything. And after the while, after they watched it, and you ask them, I asked you to do this when? I don't remember when you did that. And that happens to children too. So please remember that. And please understand, taking a screen away from a child is a process. Let's go to the next slide. So, vestibular system. Read up on it. Whatever I told you is connected to the vestibular system. So, hyperfocus is related to your vestibular system. So you have to reset the pace of the brain. And the best way to reset the pace of the brain is to get their vestibular system activated. Jump, swing, run around. Let's see the next slide. So let's go through. When they are eating, we put screens in front of them. We told them screens are going to help you. Screens are going to help you eat better. Want to distract them during a doctor's meeting? You give them screens. They'll get addicted to screens. Want to have some time to yourself? Let's give a screen to a child. He'll keep quiet. I'll have my time to myself. That same screen is then going to give them emotional and mental issues. The same screen that they were introduced to by their own parents to handle their emotions. Think of the dichotomy. You gave them screens to handle their emotions, and now they are having mental and emotional issues because of those screens. Think of it. Is it worth it? A balance. Balance is what's required. We need to introduce screens in children's lives as a tool, not as a necessity. Let's go to the next slide. Chemical locha. Locha means problem. Problem means, oh my God. And that's what happens in children's brains quite often. They get upset very easily. They get cranky very easily. They get frustrated very easily. And they don't have patience. Because let's understand, they are on a growing up mode. So everything in their body is always on a growing up mode. We need to understand children's brain development to help us deal with them better, to help us navigate their behavioral issues better. Let's see the next slide. The most important part of the brain that all parents must know about is the hippocampus. The hippocampus is a tiny part in the center of your brain, and it's in charge of three things. It's in charge of memory, which means whatever you teach your child, and your child has to remember it. It's in charge of producing new neurons, which means my child's brain will always be active and rejuvenated. And it's also in charge of controlling behavior. So the most important three things that parents want for their children, they want them to remember, they want them to be intelligent, and they want them to be well behaved. All these three are governed by the hippocampus. Let's see the next slide to understand what does not what does the hippocampus not like. It does not like stress. If you're going to stress out your child, the child's hippocampus is not going to thrive. And what stresses the hippocampus? Screaming, shouting, threatening, comparing, and ignoring. All these lead to stress in children's brains. And when this kind of stress comes early on and constantly, it disrupts and damages the hippocampus. So my memory won't be good. I'll keep forgetting things. I won't remember what I'm taught in school. My neurons would not be rejuvenated. So I will stagnate at a particular brain development level, and behavior is something I won't be able to control. I will always need extrinsic support to control my behavior. Let's see the next slide. Did you know that there is a gut brain connection? Yeah, nowadays, when you will go to dietitians and you will see all these ads that come, you will notice that they all talk about the gut microbe, and they all give you these gut things to drink and eat. Why are they doing that? Because now science has also understood that the gut is related not only to our brain, it's also related to our complete health and physical development. What your child eats is what the child's brain will be. Always remember that. Salt and sugar, extremely bad for young children. Salt, you know that one packet of popcorn that you buy in a movie theater? It has 1 week's salt content. So, by that one packet of popcorn that you've given your child, you've already given 1 week's salt content to your child. And your child will still have other foods throughout the week which will have salt in them. It's this kind of a diet that's leading to early high BP and early heart problems. Salt, sugar, and additives. Additives is what comes in packaged foods. Anything that comes in a package is convenience. Convenience for who? Convenience for you and convenience for me. It's not convenient for the child's brain. Please reduce packaged foods in your child's life. It's very harmful for them. Let's see the next slide. I want you to read this and understand the dichotomy. When a child hits another child, we say the child is aggressive. When a child hits an adult, we say the child is very hostile. It's hostility. But when an adult hits another adult, we call it assault. And when an adult hits a child, we call it discipline. How is that fair? So let's understand how to make it fair. Let's see the next slide. It's very, very important for all of us to keep these stress away from children's lives. Hovering. Oh, yes, children hate it when you hover over them all the time. You're hovering, eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it. Don't climb here, don't climb here, don't climb here. Don't hold it like this, don't hold it like this. It's hovering, it's irritating. There will be a point at which a child will want to hit back. Expecting a child to be correct all the time, very stressful. Achieving instantly, extremely stressful. Making me do something which I'm not ready for. You know, the tiger parents, which is mostly the Indian and Asian parents, want their children to write very early. They want their children to write when they are 1 year old. They think having a pencil in the hand means my child is intelligent and successful. When you push children too early to do things for which the brain is not ready, the brain will still do it, but the brain won't understand it. The brain won't like it. So remember that whenever you're trying to push your child too early into something, it's going to cause stress. Let's see the next slide. I want you to close your eyes and just ask yourself, What does discipline in children mean to you? So when you say, I want to discipline my child or I want a disciplined child, what does it mean to you? And open your eyes and see this next slide. The dictionary meaning of discipline is training that develops self control and character. Does this match what discipline means to all of us? For us, discipline means my child must listen to me. My child must do what I'm telling my child. My child must behave all the time. My child must follow all the rules. And what happens is discipline becomes extrinsic, which means they are threatened to behave properly. So they behave only when you warn them, when you threaten them, when you bargain with them, or when you bribe them. That's extrinsic. Whereas discipline is training that develops self control and character. Discipline needs to come from within me. I am disciplined because I love my parents and I won't do anything to make them unhappy. That's discipline. Not because my father told me if I do this, I will get a chocolate. Then I'm doing it for the chocolate and not because I love my parents. Let's see the next slide. Remember Pickler, whom I spoke to you about, says that discipline should never be a power struggle, overpowering the child, a lack of discipline, and most importantly, destroying the child's free will. We think punishment is synonymous with discipline, but punishment actually destroys a child. When we ridicule a child, we are damaging their self esteem. It's not about my child has to listen to me. That's a power struggle. It shouldn't be that. Discipline has to be something that is taught to a child in a beautiful, sensitive, emotional manner. And then, when taught like that, a child would understand and imbibe it. But most of the time, discipline is taught in a very stressful, angry, and frustrated voice. And I told you, the hippocampus. If I'm going to listen to an adult who is angry, abusive, and is talking to me in a loud tone, my hippocampus is already crumpled. I won't be able to listen to what you're trying to tell me. So, discipline doesn't come during a bout of anger. Discipline comes during a feeling of love. So, your child broke something, you are angry, you'll say, let's pick it up together. And then, when you've calmed down, you sit with the child and you explain to the child what went wrong and why you should not do that again. When discipline comes from a power of love, it stays forever. Let's see the next slide. Most parents and teachers whom I talk to struggle with discipline. They are confused about discipline. They read so many articles, they see so many video blogs on discipline that they get confused. What is right and what is wrong? They lose sight of what is important and what is not. Should I be hitting children? Should I be shouting at children? How should I discipline? Why do you want to discipline? That should be your first question to yourself. I want to discipline because I want my child to grow up to be a good human being. Wonderful. If you want your child to be a good human being, then another good human being should teach the child about discipline. It's as simple as that. Let's see the next slide. Pickler talked about what parents can do to ensure that they are giving the right involvement in discipline. She talked about a technique called red light, yellow light, green light. Let's see the next slide to understand what are these three lights. Red light. So Discipline is about how much should I, as a parent, interfere when the child is doing something, and how much should my interference be. So, red light. A red light is when the child is going to pick up a big sharp knife. You don't sit there and ask yourself, what did that parenting book tell me? Should I wait? And no, you don't do that. You go, you pick up the child, you take the knife away, and that's it. That's a red light situation. You don't ponder about it, that what am I, oh my God, I'll scare the child. Of course, you need to. The child is going to be in danger very soon. So, very importantly, you don't ponder in a red light situation. Or you're watching a child talk to a stranger. You go there and you just pick up your child. That's a red light situation. Let's see the next slide to understand what is a yellow light situation. A yellow light situation is a situation that can be negotiated, which means you can watch and wait. For example, you see your child having an argument with another child or another sibling. Wait, watch, and monitor. Don't jump in. Don't say, oh, now they're going to come to blows. No, wait, watch, and monitor. Watch how they negotiate. You know, there are very smart children, very smart siblings. When they see a parent watching, one of them will have a meltdown. Hate me. And we always take the side of the one that melts down without listening to both sides of the story. A yellow light tells you to watch and monitor. Be close to ensure that if they start hitting each other, you are there to hold their hands. But you are going to tell them, you will solve this. Because discipline is also about ensuring that children participate in that process. Let's see the next slide. Let's see what's a green light. A green light is where your interference is not required. You can trust your child to do the right thing. The child is playing with a puzzle and cannot fit a piece. Child gets frustrated and you immediately, yeah, I'll help you. No. Mhm, mhm. Child is frustrated. Child shows its frustration. It's human. When we are not able to do something, don't we go, ah, and don't we say, oh God, and don't we use bad words? When children are not able to do something, they also do that. They also do, and they start throwing things. Wait and watch. It's a green light situation. You're not required at all. Don't have a don't try to be protective. Don't try to be that savior. Not required. It's a green light situation. It's very, very important for us to understand that stop your urge to treat everything like a red light situation. It's not. And you will notice that you will also start feeling calm, and you will also start feeling that it's good to have a sharing of power. That's important. Let's see the next slide. Discipline is not about taking away the power or power struggles. It's about giving children the power to control the situation. So, first, let me give you some powers. Let's see the next slide. What are the powers you should have as a parent? So, parenting powers, calm down power. When you feel like going, tell yourself, I have the power to calm down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to scream. That's your calm down power. Use it. Because if you expect children to use it, you will have to have it. Mouth closed power. When you feel like yelling and abusing at your child, hmm, hmm, mouth closed power. You know, it's become a habit with me nowadays. For people who work with me, especially my husband notices that I am constantly like this. So it must be telling you how many frustrations I must be having, that this has become my everyday expression. I am using my power, mouth closed power, hands down power. It's very easy to think that your child is a ketchup bottle. You know, when the ketchup doesn't come out, what do? We do the bottle upside down and we go bang, bang, bang on the bottle, and the ketchup will come out. Your child is not a ketchup bottle. Don't think that every time you raise that hand, the child is going to listen and improve. Raising your hand on a child only teaches them that violence is the solution for everything. And then we do something else after we beat a child. After some time, when we calm down, we realize our mistake and we go and hug our child and we say, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. But you shouldn't do such things which gets mommy and daddy angry. We beat you because we love you. So you taught this child that hitting and love are two sides of the same coin. So I can beat my wife because I love her. I can beat my husband because I love him. I can beat my children because I love them. And that's not right. Use your hands down power. A lot of parents who come to me who have a problem of raising their hand often, I tell them whichever hand you use often on your children, tie a red band there. So every time you raise your hand, that red band tells you to stop. And use your red light, yellow light, green light power. And one of the most important things is teach your children that it's okay to make mistakes. It's everybody make mistakes. Animals make mistakes, human make mistakes. It's okay to make a mistake. And when we teach children that, they easily understand to say sorry, to say excuse me, use your powers. Let's go to the next slide. Once you have your powers, then it's time to give some powers to children and tell your child you are a super child because you have superpowers. And what are your superpowers? When you are with others, you can use your calm down power, your mouth closed power, your hands down power, and your walk away power. Please remember, childhood is also an age when bullying happens. They get bullied a lot. When we teach children to have these powers, we tell a child that you can control things around you. So become a super parent and raise a super child. Let's see the next slide. Friends, parenting is a journey, it never ends. If you think that my child has become an adolescent now, and now, thank God, he will need less of me, I am sorry. Adolescents are the second phase toddlers. So, the same problem you went through toddlers, you will face it when your child will become an adolescent. And then you will say, okay, my child is an adult now my child won't need it. Oh, your child is going to need you forever. You're going to remain a parent forever, even after they become parents. Parenting is a journey, it's not a destination. It doesn't end. And as parents, enjoy the journey. And that's the only way to have this beautiful experience of bringing up another life. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope that the pointers shared today help you with screen and screen parenting. Thank you.
So, Dr. Swati, that was a very wonderful session, so informative. And we have a lot of questions, but because of the paucity of time, we'll only take three questions. And I'm going to take the first question, which is by Ritu ma'am. She posted this question in the very first 5 minutes. um, Her question is that some of the students are phone addicted to use it till late night and they feel sleepy during school hours. How to handle such cases?
See, I always say schooling is a joint job. You have to involve parents and teachers. Somehow, that parent teacher connect has gone away these days. So, schools make rules, but they are not implemented at home. So, it's very important to bring back that connection where a rule made by a school is also followed at home. As I told you, it's very easy for a child to get a mobile phone and to be constantly on it. Parents say, I don't know what to do. I have tried so many things. So, this is where the teacher and parent come together and make a kind of a rule book that the child will have to follow, and both will have to be firm. And as children grow older, above the age of 6, you need to bring them also into this partnership. When you talk to them and explain to them about the harmful effects, children do listen, but they don't listen if they are seeing something contrary happening in the home. So, which means my parents are on the mobile phone till late in the night and they're asking me not to. Even in this, I have given solutions to parents that you can drive a car, your child can't. So there is an age for driving. So similarly, you can teach your child there is an age at which a brain can take screens. And because your brain is just developing, we don't want a half cooked brain. So that's why we are telling you to do this. So you can use so much of reasoning with children.
Wonderful. So now I'll take another question. So Robin Mathusa has actually not posted a question, but has posted a question box. So I've received 7 to 8 questions from him, but I'm choosing only one out of so many questions that he has asked. And the question is, ma'am, that how do you handle situations where your child feels left out because their friends have more digital freedom?
I'm so happy you asked that. Um, I was brought up by a father who did not believe in luxuries, even if we could afford them. So we never used to get to eat one full chocolate. You are supposed to share it with your when we go to school, children would bring all kinds of compass boxes and snack boxes, and they would throw these parties and all. But I think the support and involvement that my parents showed taught us that yes, in our life we are not allowed to do this, even if other children are doing it. And it's worked brilliantly. Today I don't compare myself to what others have. I have reached a kind of a level in my life where I'm happy with what I have. So I think when you love your children and not fear, children have to love you, not fear you. So when you love your parents, you will do anything for them. I was brought up in a home where drinking was abhorrent. I'm now an adult. My parents are no more. I still don't drink. Not because my parents told me, but because I believe in their value system. And it's my way of paying respect to them. So when fear becomes a parenting process, children will not listen to you, children will lie to you, and children will do something when you are not around. But when you do parenting with love and your children respect you, the world doesn't matter. What my parents say matters.
And this is the last question. There are many other interesting questions, but I think this is a little different from what I asked you earlier. Uh, this is by Suman, like Suman sir or Suman ma'am. She's so they are asking, kindly explain any physical activity for students to control anger or stress.
Oh, lovely. Breathing. Breathing exercises calm down the brain. Singing, another exercise, or dancing. Uh, Singing, dancing, breathing. They all involve both sides of the brain. So your left brain and your right brain have to get connected for you to do these activities. And when both sides of the brain are connected, you calm down. So when you sing, the left side of the brain listens to the words and the right side of the brain listens to the rhythm. When you are dancing, the same thing happens. And when you are breathing, your entire brain gets oxygen, and oxygen calms down the brain. So it's very, very important that when you are frustrated, angry, upset, do any of these three things and it will definitely help you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Swati. And I'm sorry, dear participants, but we cannot take any more questions. And I've received a flood of questions today. Very interesting questions, but we had time only for three. I thank you so much, Dr. Swati, for taking this wonderful session. And I thank all the participants to join us in this learning journey. And do watch out this space for another interesting session every fourth Saturday, 4 p.m. Good evening and have a wonderful rest of the weekend.
Thank you.